Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the podcast. Really excited to bring you guys this episode because the roles are kind of reversed on this episode. I'm picking somebody's brain about hunting over east versus most of the guys are wanting to figure out how to come over west. So for us guys over here on the west side, this is going to be a really great episode. And even for the guys over on the east side, if you guys are looking at hunting different states for whitetails and what kind of opportunities there are, Aaron from the Hunting Public has a really good insight especially from their deer and turkey tour that they do. He's got a lot of really good information and knows what states hold the best opportunity for public land hunters out there. And for somebody like me that wants to eventually go over there someday, hopefully, next year actually, it's going to be a really great episode. Aaron has also been part of the team of the Hunting Public that has grown since like 2017 just to now. I think they're over 90,000 subscribers on YouTube, and they've really hit the ground running. So from somebody that's trying to grow in the industry as myself, it was a really valuable conversation being able to find out what he's doing or what they've done to be able to just really hit the ground running. So a lot of great topics and areas that we cover in this one. Really appreciate Aaron and his time because I know he's a super busy guy, and I hope you guys really enjoy this one too. I'll see you in the end. Bye. All right, well, dude, let's get this thing going, man. So you're more of an Eastern guy. Well, you are an Eastern guy, or a Central guy. And I don't think a lot of guys in my area probably know of you guys just because it's just a different demographic that you guys are hitting.
Sure.
So why don't we start off with an introduction here?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Northeast Missouri in a little bitty small town called Paris. I graduated high school with 34 people, I think. So real small redneck town, and did, hunting and fishing my whole life. Basically started at a very, very young age in the woods and started toting around a video camera, trying to film our whitetail hunts and our turkey hunts when I was 10 years old. We stole my aunt's camera out of the closet. She wasn't very happy about that. And then we went out and started filming stuff, and eventually just figured that might as well try to do that for a living someday, and started working towards it, I guess.
Well, I'd say successfully. You guys have, would you say you came out in 2017, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's when we started the Hunting Public, but we'd all had experience in digital content within the hunting industry prior to that.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, that brings me to the next point is who's all part of your crew here? Because I was watching some of your YouTube videos, and it felt like I was watching somebody different every episode that I watched.
Right. Yeah, there's three owners. Myself, Greg Clements, and Zach Fehrenbaugh own THP, the Hunting Public, and then we have a larger group than that. We have some of our friends and family that hunt and film with us. And then Ted and Logan and Jake Jake's one of our employees, and then Ted and Logan were our interns this last year. And those guys are also on camera a bunch and filming and editing and doing all kinds of stuff. So we've got a base group of 6, but like we run around and do collaborations with other YouTubers and other friends, like I mentioned. So lots of folks pop up on the channel.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because you guys I was just following your Instagram. You guys were hunting, I think, in Arizona was it Gritty? Or somebody was hunting in Arizona, I think, from your group.
Yep, that was me and Greg. We were down there hunting hunting with Arizona Game and Fish and Randy Newberg, the Hush guys, Brian Call, and then Ryan Lampers. Sam Solholt was also there. It was a great group.
That's a solid group of guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a really solid group of guys. So tell me about the inception of the Hunting Public. So you had a couple buddies, you grew up filming your stuff, and then you just decided, okay, now's the time that we're going to start this thing, and just went into it head first, or what happened there?
No, I mean, like I mentioned, we'd all been kind of working in digital content for a while. I used to work for a company called Midwest Whitetail, who produced a lot of content. I think that they were actually the first semi-live online hunting show back in 2008. And I came on and worked with them for a few years. And, eventually we got this idea down the road, right about the time we started the hunting public. We kind of realized that we'd been hunting public land and filming on public land for quite some time. By that point, that was really the only place that we could hunt. In southern Iowa, there wasn't much private land open for hunting, just because a lot of it has been leased or bought or whatever. And so we were hunting public land for the most part and really enjoying it. So, and noticed that people seem to like those videos that we produced from public land, especially when we were showing the social aspect of like deer camp, because we all hunt as a team, we hunt as a group and try to communicate with one another to help, I guess the group's overall success. So that's kind of where the idea came from. We realized that the hunting world, so to speak, needed something like that. And that was right up our alley. I mean, that's what we grew up doing, and what we eventually progressed into as adults was filming and hunting as a group on public land and just trying to have as much fun as you can every time you go to the woods. So
for sure,
that's where the idea sort of came from.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, with over where your guys at, and I'm just talking from hearsay because I don't have any experience over there. It sounds like public lands can be a lot bigger of an issue and a lot more vital. Because of so much being private. Right.
There's not a ton of public land, especially now. It's actually on very low totem pole as far as public land percentage ownership in the state. There's not very much at all. However,
that's crazy.
And we feel like, with the access problems and the recruitment problems that hunters face anymore, we feel like that public land is an underutilized resource as far as adding new hunters and, using it to be successful. And that's what we try to show folks, is that you can go out and you can have a good experience on public land just about anywhere across the whitetail or turkeys range, and we use that as leverage to get more people out in the woods.
Makes sense. Well, because I know here filming and stuff and seeing what some of the bro guys go through, what kind of challenges do you have filming on public land where it's much more sparse over there? And then also, because I know it's a double-edged sword, because some guys might get pissed off about, dude, you're showing my area, or hey, I hunt there, or do you guys get any of that? Because I know over here, even with some of the posts that I've done, it's like, dude, why you doing that?
Oh yeah,
like that's my spot.
You get some pushback from individuals and on their the whole my spot thing. We could, and I'm sure we could have more individual success if we didn't share our hunts. If we didn't film and didn't talk about where we were hunting, because then, you keep your spot a secret and you continue to hunt it and have success. But the problem with that is if everybody does that on public land, then it's not public land anymore. It's just becoming,
right.
My spot or your spot, when in reality it's public land. It's our spot. Now granted, we're going through the work at that particular day or time frame to go in there and try to figure these deer out. But that's not to say that somebody else can't go and do the same exact thing. And we're actually trying to encourage that. So where we might have a couple people get fussy about us producing one video on a particular area that they deem as theirs, a lot of people are benefiting from seeing that video, just seeing the process and how we go about trying to figure things out. It gives them, that's kind of the big picture philosophy that we try to have all the time. It's like when we launch one of these videos from public land, are we helping or hurting people as a whole? And we feel like we're helping them because we're giving them hope that they can actually go out to their public land in their neighborhood and have success or just have a good time in general. and they can actually work together with the other people that are out there to have a positive
for sure.
experience.
And I'd have to pretty much agree heartedly with that, because I know for a lot of guys, it's really empowering to see, you guys go out, and for a guy like me that wants to eventually hunt whitetails, go out and hunt spots you guys pretty much have never hunted before, and then be able to get into a deer. It makes it easier for me to pull the trigger on those trips that are kind of voodoo. Like, I wouldn't even know where to start, but after just watching a few of your guys' episodes, it kind of gave me the belief that, hey, maybe I can go over there and find, public ground, because from my perspective, I thought it was pretty much all landlocked or private, like Texas and stuff, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, there's definitely public ground, and good, successful opportunities to be had, and we don't try to pretend to be experts by any means. We're just lucky enough to be in a situation where we can spend more time out there than the average person. So we try to show as much of that as possible. We kind of feel like that's, in order for us to be in this situation, we feel like it's kind of our, I guess you could say, duty or whatever, to give back to everyone by showing them the content, by showing them all the videos that, we create out there in exchange for being fortunate enough to hunt more than the average guy. So we just try to show people everything, every hunt, whether we have success or failure, we try to show the whole thing, warts and all, and hopefully they'll learn as we learn in the videos through our, mistakes and very, very sparse successes, I guess.
That reminds me of the first episode I watched of you guys. It just popped in my feed, and it was, I think, B-Mac from Hushin, and he shot this whitetail and then didn't go his way. I mean, he didn't. I don't think I saw the episode if he found it or not. I don't think he did. But you guys, after he left, you guys kept looking. You guys used your time to fill your own tags looking for his, and I'm like, that really turned me on to what you guys were about and what kind of character you guys had, because you guys could have easily just said, well, let's go fill our tags, and that's really, honestly, the really what turned me on to you guys was the number one thing, is like just seeing that right there. That's what made me keep watching you guys and really start to follow you guys as a channel. And I just think guys really like that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's just the honest truth of what goes on. We try to be as transparent as we can on those deals and just show what all goes into a given hunt or a given situation like that.
Yeah. Well, and I know that it sucks for BMAC and the Hushin crew in general, because I know that they've really been working on their bow shooting capabilities, their form, their shot execution, and then I was just so pumped to see the success that they've had this year, and then it still shows you stuff can go wrong, man. Even if you practice all the time and you have a great shot execution, stuff can go wrong. You're making so many split-second decisions going into that shot that shit's going to happen eventually.
Oh, without a doubt.
If you shoot enough stuff as they do.
It's certainly going to. So that just, and I feel like people can relate to that when you show them that. Some folks will get bent out of shape, but that's
right.
That's just the nature of it, of what goes on with bow hunting.
Well, I think the ones that are getting bent, just from my experiences, are the ones who aren't having those experiences, who aren't getting it done or haven't hunted as much. Because the guys that have had those experiences, that have hunted a lot and put enough animals on the ground, they know shit happens.
Right.
And it just seems like the more unexperienced guys are the ones that maybe haven't lost a deer yet. They've shot 5 or 6 deer with their bow and they haven't lost one yet, and their their shit doesn't stink yet.
Right.
And eventually it's going to happen. I mean, you can be the best shot in the world and something can jump your string, or you just never know.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Well, I really am interested, because this podcast has kind of its own little niche of helping guys break into the industry or learn a little bit more about the business aspect of it. And I can't think of anybody better to talk to I would consider you guys still pretty, THP pretty new into the industry since you started in 2017. What would be some reasons that you think that you guys have managed to grow and forgive me if my figures are off, but last time I watched your channel, I think you guys were around 90,000 subscribers, which it just dumbfounds me. It's like, man, because I've had a YouTube channel, I think, since 2016, and steady growth, but nothing like that.
Well, I guess there's somewhat method to the madness, but it's more so just cranking a lot of videos. We were out there all the time, so we're trying to turn out as much content as we can. And there's a wide variety of ways that you can do it across these digital platforms. With YouTube, and in the way that its algorithm works, you need to be consistently posting relevant content to the audience that you're trying to reach, whether that's once a week or once a month or twice a week or 5 days a week. It all kind of depends on your brand and what you're capable of doing. But with us, we're always, I guess we were kind of built from the get-go to create content on the fly, sort of like the daily video type style. So we've been looking for ways to translate that into the vlog style videos and, sort of have a story to your entire season, just in a day-by-day format. And that's kind of what we've done with the turkey tour and then our public land deer tour and stuff this last fall is, we'll go on a trip. Say the first one of the deer tour, we went to Kentucky and we were hunting there for 5 days, and we've got, 4 or 5 videos from that 5-day hunt. So as soon as we're filming a video, one of us is going to a McDonald's or a library somewhere or a motel or the front seat of a pickup, and then we're editing that video right then and there and then posting it as soon as we can. That way we can help people, understand what's going on. And
that makes a lot of sense. It seems like a lot of guys don't upload enough, and from what I've seen in my experiences on YouTube, it seems like frequency is having good content, but frequency, man, that goes a long ways.
yeah, you gotta have a nice mixture there, because you can't sacrifice the quality for frequency. If we went to 7 days a week uploading content, I know for a fact that the quality would go in the tank, just because we can't physically work any faster than what we're trying to do. But I don't know, we found sort of a nice balance within our group and kind of know what we're capable of doing, how much time a video will take to edit, and we all can edit. So it's really, we just take turns. When we're on one of those trips, there's probably 3 of us in the field, or 3 of us on the trip, and 2 of us will be in the field and the other guy will be editing. And then we'll just sort of rotate around like that the entire time, so that everybody gets enough rest and keeps content cranking out. It makes for a long trip sometimes as far as work is concerned, but then after the fact, you have all the videos done. So you've already went through the painful part of it, of doing all the editing while you were on the trip, and then you can get home and relax somewhat.
Well, I know when I edit my stuff, it seems like when I do it soon after, like the more fresh it is, the quicker and easier it is for me to edit. It's like, yep, I remember, exactly what you had in mind when you were filming it and stuff. And I don't know if that's how your guys, but like when I do a podcast, I pretty much immediately edit it, and I've gotten it down to half an hour, 20 minutes. I'm pretty much uploaded. I mean, it's that fast. And just kind of working out your system.
It's sometimes the last thing that you want to worry about after you come in from a long day of hunting or whatever it is. But if you just kind of grit your teeth and get it done, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So
for sure, well, having 3 guys that know how to edit, I mean, having a whole crew that edits that's pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of editing stuff were you guys using? You guys Mac users? Are you guys the Adobe, or what you got?
We're actually Adobe Creative Cloud on Mac. But
oh, really?
Yeah, anything would work. I mean, we used to work off PCs with Adobe. Used to work off Max with Final Cut. I mean, it all depends. I mean, any of it can work. It all depends on what you're comfortable with doing, you know. And there's a number of different ways to do it. Like I said, you could do digital content and upload videos once a week and just make them more polished if that's what your audience is looking for and that's what works for you and your brand. Then by all means do it that way. Or you can try to upload every single day as long as you can. You know, it just all depends on what your goals are and what you're capable of doing. Kind of what your editing style is too. You know, a lot of people want to watch that higher end production type stuff, that more documentary style video, and those take more time and effort to film and edit, of course. So you're not going to end up with, you know, 70 videos on a deer tour or whatever like we're up to now. You may only have a few dozen, but then the quality of each video is going to be substantially better because you got more time and energy to put into each one of them. So it really just kind of depends on who you are and what your goals are.
Luckily for the channel that I have on YouTube, it's like just it's not polished like you're saying. It's like you have the Lunkers TV, you know, spectrum, and then you have the Jason Matzinger end of the spectrum, and they're completely two different, you know, just styles. Lunkers like every day uploading,
right?
And then you got Matzinger that's like something out of, or the Donnie Vincent, something straight out of a movie, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But luckily for me, just being a small one-man operation, it's like I didn't center my stuff around the higher end. Thank God. Not only am I not detail-oriented enough for that, I'm just too ADD. I got to keep working on something new all the time.
Yeah, we're just not patient enough.
That's my thing. Yeah.
We like to sit down and get it done and then get back out in the woods.
I know.
So.
Well, it's just when you have that hunt and you film it or that episode, you're like so freaking jazzed to get it out there as soon as possible. And then it's like a fix. It's like you're going from one fix to the next. It's like, man, I need to upload this. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I need to upload this. It's just, I don't know. It's really addicting. It really is. I mean, it's just, it's like a drug, just coming out with a video and then being so excited to go to the next one.
Yep.
But, so basically, I want to talk about your guys' project because you alluded to it a couple times. I didn't even know you guys did a turkey project, but the deer project was what really got my attention, like I said earlier. And for the guys that are over here that listen to my podcast, I have a few Eastern guys that I'm sure, like, dude, we know all this stuff. We know of the hunting the public guys, but over here in Oregon, I would have to probably compare it or basically say it'd be like Land of the Free, but for whitetail.
Yep. Yeah, I would say it's somewhat similar. And we got a lot of inspiration from those guys when they did that. And we was done, or I would say always, but for about the last 6 years, even back when we worked at Midwest Whitetail, we were cranking out daily videos, sort of like public land. I think back then they were called public land video blogs. And then eventually became public land video journals. And then there would be like day 1, day 2, day 47 or whatever it would be. So we were doing that type of stuff back then, but then I watched their first year of Land of the Free and we were like, we need to, you know, we are already doing this for the turkey stuff, but we need to make it more of a focused deal. Like we need to actually, because that's what I thought was really cool that they did, was they actually branded the tour itself, so to speak. And so it was more of an event. It wasn't so much of just a daily vlog that you followed along with, but it was an actual event that you could sort of look forward to. And I think that was real smart. It's pretty cool how they did that. I've been a big Land of the Free fan since then. And that's what the turkey tour is too. It's similar to that, I suppose.
Interesting. Have you had a chance to hunt out?
Yeah, I've hunted elk a few times in Arizona and in New Mexico.
Oh, shoot. You've done it in some of the best states in the country.
Yeah, I filmed in New Mexico a couple times, and I filmed in Arizona a couple times, and I've bow hunted in Arizona once.
Oh man, that's on my list. All these guys doing the Coos whitetails, and like right now, it's like, man, you guys are hunting in sunny weather, and I'm sitting in Oregon, and our river just rose like 6 feet in 2 days.
Yeah,
Like, come on. So, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because when I say it's like land of the free, I'm not taking away from any of you, what you guys have done, but to get guys to understand what you guys are over here, it's just really easy to say land of the free for whitetails.
Oh, sure.
In the feel of it, it's like a bunch of buddies that, and I alluded to it earlier, it's selfless. I mean, you guys are out there. I feel like it's super genuine. It's super real, man. I feel like I'm watching guys that I could go out and run into the woods, like with. And
yeah, that's kind of who we are.
Just
that's
everyday people.
Been. Just your regular dudes that like to go out in the woods and have a good time. So we,
for sure,
it's worked, I guess, if as far as like the amount of people that view it, but we don't really think of it that way. We just think of it like, well, we're going to the woods today. Hopefully somebody gets into something, and if they do, we're going to be pretty pumped about it. And then we just try to film the whole thing, I guess you could say, as honestly as possible. We're not real competitive guys. We could care less who shoots a buck or how big it is or if they even shoot a buck. That's the main thing. It's just having a good experience.
Well, what really opened my eyes to you guys, and actually one of the patrons of the show wants me to ask you guys about spotting and stalking for whitetail. But after watching, I think it was Zach, spot and stalk that whitetail and shoot it from I think it was like 20 yards or something, right after a truck drove by.
Yep.
And he said that was the first time he's ever done that. I mean, do you guys get to spot and stalk whitetail that much over there?
Yeah, we do every once in a while. He was in Nebraska in open terrain, so it was kind of like a Western whitetail setup where he did that. But we have done it some back in the Midwestern states. Like Ohio, we had some luck doing it this year in Iowa as well. And yeah, it certainly works if you've got the right conditions. We actually just did nothing but spot and stalk this past week down in southern Arizona. We were hunting coos deer down there.
Yeah, I imagine.
Which is, pretty much your best way to go when you're hunting Western deer. But yeah, we certainly have luck doing it in Iowa every once in a while. It just kind of depends on the situation, though. We try to have a variety of different tactics for different situations. If it's wet and windy, for example, then it's much easier to get away with spotting and stalking through timber or something like that. Especially when it comes to whitetails and thicker habitat like we've got in the Midwest or out east. If you've got a real still morning and it's crunchy out, you're not going to be able to make it very far without them hearing you and the jig being up.
Well, one thing that I've seen from following, guys that hunt whitetail and stuff, and haven't really had a chance to talk to anybody about it, is I don't know if you know much about our blacktail over here and even our whitetail over here. We've got two species of whitetail, and we've got blacktail, which is a cousin to one of the species, Columbian whitetail and Columbian blacktail deer. And we love to hunt when it's raining because these things, they love the rain. And it seems like a lot of the states over there, when it's raining, the activity actually turns off. Is that pretty accurate, or is that more dependent on what state you're hunting over there?
Oh, I would say it's more dependent on the situation. I mean, I wouldn't – yeah, I mean, they can definitely shut off when it rains, but I would say more of a downpour or a storm type thing. A low pressure system comes through and it warms up and it's just kind of misty, and I would say those aren't favorable conditions, but at the same time, they're still out there and they're probably doing something. So what we usually try to do with our, I guess you could say, whitetail hunting strategy is it's all situational tactics, and you basically set up your situation by the day. We always hunt bedding areas. We try to get in as tight as we can to where we suspect the deer to be bedded, and then decide what is going to be your best approach for that day. Like I mentioned a while ago, if it's wet and windy, for example, you can get super, super close to the bedding. So that may negate the other factors involved with movement, because, you know, if it's a crappy movement day and the deer only stands up and moves 15 yards, if you can get to that point where he stands up essentially and moves that far in daylight, you can still kill him, even if the conditions aren't that favorable for movement. So, I mean, for example, if it's hot in the summer and it's not a great movement day, but it's super, super hot and it's early season, they're going to have to probably go to water at some point. And sometimes they'll get up and they'll do it in the middle of the day, even if it's hot enough. And I mean, they'll even bed closer to water. So it'll change. Those conditions may change the particular area that the buck beds in that day. And as you get more experience, sort of reading those different situations, you can start to put the pieces together and put yourself in higher odds spots more often, instead of just waiting and waiting and waiting for the right conditions to favor the deer's movement. You're more so going to him and then trying to figure out a chink in his armor for that day. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and it's very usable information for hunting blacktails over here. I mean, same thing with changes in weathers and stuff, and I've actually killed a lot of my best blacktail on beautiful days when no one else is out.
That's right.
You know? It just from what I've seen, it's like, you know, I see pictures on guys on Instagram, you know, it's raining and they're staying inside. It's like, man, you know, blacktails, everybody and their mother would be out right now. And that kind of just made me wonder. I'm like, I wonder if I'm just seeing guys that aren't doing it, because, you know, I'm not one of those guys that will plan my hunt around the moon or weather per se, because if I'm going to go hunting, I'm going to go hunting. And knowing that maybe that moon may present more of a challenge, but if I just change my tactics a little bit, I should be able to still, you know, if you know what the deer habits are going to be, then it shouldn't really matter. I mean, to a certain point.
Right. And we still, I mean, with that said, we still pay attention to all that stuff, you know, weather, especially. Mm-hmm. But it's by working with situational tactics, it gives folks more optimism and confidence to head to the woods on the day that they can. Because that's what most people are faced with, is they're weekend warriors, or they can get out, you know, in the evening after work, but can't ever hunt mornings, and vice versa, or whatever. You know, most folks only have a set amount of time that they can go, and they may not be that flexible with when they can or can't. So if you start to just use that particular day's situation and then bend it to your advantage somehow, then you'll in theory have more success, I would think. But
yeah, no, for sure, just being more adaptable is all that is, and understanding
adaptable.
Yeah, and just understanding. Yeah, one thing I did notice is that some of you guys carry around you know, a lot of the newer gear, and some of you guys are using, you know, older gear. And I've been battling this within my own head lately, is because I'm kind of a gear guy, and unfortunately I built myself around that, being a kind of a gear tester, reviewer guy, and I like it and I enjoy it. But I feel like you got these guys like Trent, for example, from Born and Raised. He's not a gear guy, and he goes out and he's one of the most successful elk hunters I know, period, along with the whole Born and Raised crew. And I feel like, and maybe you can elaborate on this, because it sounds like from what you're talking about, being more of a animal guy than a gear guy, understanding the animal more than you would spend time on gear. And even hearing Randy Newberg talk about it, he used to be a gear guy, but then he really dug into the animal habits, and then that's when he started becoming successful. And that's when, you know, putting the animal behavior and understanding the habits of the animal over the gear, I guess, is what I'm talking about. Kind of sounds like what you guys have been doing.
Yeah, woodsmanship is number one for us, regardless of everything else that you have going on. That thing, woodsmanship trumps everything, at least in our opinion. You know, there's more than one way to skin the cat, but that's the way we do it anyway. We are more worried about learning the situation, learning the the particular area that the deer lives on, and how they move throughout it, and how they use it at different times of the year in different situations than we are, about the boots that we're wearing or the camo patterns or whatever, being scent free or any of that stuff. We just don't. And I'm not saying that there's not some merit to that stuff to pay attention to. I'm just saying that we don't have time to pay attention to it. It's like we don't. If you can only think about so many things in a given day when it comes to deer hunting. If you overwhelm yourself with a long scent control regimen, for example, then just by default, you're probably not going to worry as much about woodsmanship.
Right.
And those people are still successful.
I guess,
I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that we're right and they're wrong. But I'm just saying that's the way we do it. We worry more about what's going on in the woods.
Right. Well, I think that there's a lot to be said about that, man, because I've been kicking this around a lot lately. Like I said, is like, man, maybe I should be changing the focus of the channel, because I get a lot of newer hunters or guys that are looking to get into bow hunting, consuming the content, and instead of rather focusing on the gear, because when I go out into the woods, I'm more focused. Like my gear priorities are very different than what people will probably expect. Like people will probably think the bow for me is the number one thing because I'm a gear guy, and it's towards the bottom. And for me now, in order to get more success, now I need to start really digging into the animal behaviors, the type of feed for certain times a year, and then actually getting out and finding where these animals go when they get pushed, like our elk.
Yeah.
They kind of do these. It's just understanding the animal, being, like you said, having better woodsmanship instead of using the gear that I do for a crutch. And that's what it is for a lot of times. I was having a conversation with Brian from Day 6 here recently, just kind of using, the gear as a crutch. And I say that because, with the gear that we have nowadays, damn, you can shoot farther than you can shoot a long ways. And us Western guys we shoot a long way sometimes. And, instead of doing that, kind of using that as a crutch, I don't know. I'm kind of going on 180 from what I've been doing the last few years, and just hearing you talk about it kind of just is reaffirming, maybe I should be making that transition.
Well, I would say, just do what you like doing. That's the main thing that we tell folks, regardless, that who watch us and you see us either have success or failure. Whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're hunting or you're running a business or whatever, just do whatever is unique and comfortable for you. Like, what do you enjoy? There are a lot of people that that are gear junkies and really get a lot out of that side of hunting, and more power to them. I mean, it kind of just depends on what you're all about. When you watch those born and raised guys, for example, and Landed Free, those guys are all about social aspect, getting together with a group of their buddies, going hunting and protecting public lands. And that was the way that they were before they even started that whole thing, so, and that's the same way we are when you watch us on the channel. It's like, this is just the people that we are. I mean, we're not trying to necessarily be somebody different. We're just trying to honestly show people how we feel and hunt, whether, for better, for worse, I should say. And I think that's when folks become the most successful when they're in the woods, is whenever they figure out what works best for them. Some people sit in the same tree stand every single year and will sit there for 10 straight days from daylight to dark and shoot a big buck. I'll lose my freaking mind if I do that, because I don't have the patience to sit still that long,
Right.
So it all just depends on how you want to skin the cat, I guess.
Well, I mean, and it's also, like you said, individually per person, because you have gear guys like Aaron Snyder out there who are freaking studs, killing, I don't know how many, just with a trad bow even, and he's also a gear guy, but he's got the woodsmanship that you're talking about. And for me, I don't want to downgrade myself on my woodsman skills. I'm capable and very capable in the woods, but I feel that the gear aspect of it is sufficient, more than sufficient, and my woodsmanship skills have been compromised because of the gear that I'm using and me relying on it. And I just think I'm gonna start making that transition into knowing your animals and knowing your woodsman, like you said, woodsmanship skills and what to do in the situations is going to create more opportunities now than buying, accuracy through extreme spending.
Right.
I guess is what I'm trying to say,
Yep.
But so we've mentioned the bro guys a few times, and I know that I've heard them, toss you guys' name around for maybe collabing next year. What kind of opportunities or what kind of chances are we going to have for seeing you guys maybe do Land of the Free with them next year for whitetail and for elk or something like that? What are we looking forward to?
I don't know yet. I actually just got a text from Cody a couple days ago, and I'm needing to call him back and circle up on some stuff because we're trying to plan out 2019, and I'm not sure what all's in store. I'd love to get those guys out on a public land whitetail hunt, and they've mentioned a couple times on getting us out for a bear hunt or for a turkey hunt or a deer hunt, and same thing with the Hush crew. We're just trying to kind of figure out the logistics of it, but yeah, would love to go hunting with those guys, and have been hunting a few times. Was actually just hunting last week with the guys from Hush, and are good buddies with them, and that's a great thing about what I guess you could say our three platforms sort of have in common on YouTube is that we're all for collaborating with other like-minded folks in the industry. Try to have as much fun as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, I think it would be really cool to kind of have like each crew, and this was just from me thinking, I'm like, man, it would be cool to see the bro guys bring you guys out for elk in Oregon, because that would be so different from where you guys live, and then maybe have you bring them over to one of your states for whitetail, and then maybe have them the Hushing guys do something like mule deer, somewhere where they like to go mule deer hunting or coos hunting or something like that. It just, I don't know, it'd be really cool to see you guys all put something together for sure. And I don't know. I was just thinking about that, and I heard that might be a possibility, and I was just like,
I think it'll definitely
grease
happen.
the wheels.
I think it'll definitely happen at some point. We're just trying to figure out the logistics of when, and almost got the bro guys down to go with us on this Alabama trip here not too long ago. We hunted whitetails down in Alabama, and they were thinking about coming down, but just had family obligations and work stuff that they had to get caught up on, and we know exactly how that goes. So, yeah, we're just trying to get together on some stuff, but I would definitely look for that in the future. More collabs. Those are fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what your guys' perspective is on that, but I think right now for guys that are trying to grow their platforms, collaborations are one of the best things you can do for growth right now, it just seems like.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the digital side of things. Our industry used to be real competitive, and in some aspects still is, where folks don't like sharing, info or working together because they're competing. They're essentially competing businesses, but that's not really the way we see it. It's all a bigger picture team effort thing with us. That we're kind of looking for. I mean, we all understand that hunting is in kind of a tumultuous place right now as far as hunter recruitment goes and access. We need to all work together to try to save it from going over to the edge at some point. So we're just hoping to do that.
Right. Well, I just know from seeing the Born and Raised guys and the Hushing guys collaborating, it's just, I don't know, man. It just seems really cool to see the collaborations, especially when you're a fan of multiple platforms. I just feel like guys are like, holy crap. And I'm excited to see your guys' platform, knowing that you guys have hunted all sorts of different things and have filmed things. But I imagine that most of your guys are east of the Rockies that consume your content. I'm just guessing. It'd be really cool to show Eastern guys and Western guys the comparisons of what the challenges are for each thing. And I kind of feel like there's this and not, I don't personally do it, but I kind of feel like there's this Eastern mentality of the Western hunters kind of looking down on them because they don't do the backcountry stuff. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't shoot far. And I feel like the Eastern guys are like, hey, we do some cool shit over here too. Don't judge us. Because when I talk to Eastern guys, it's like they kind of go into it like they have to justify themselves, and I just don't think that's right. I don't know if you've seen that.
Nah, I haven't seen that, but that's amongst our friendships with like Randy Newberg and Sam Solholt and the Hush guys, and like you're saying with the Born and Raised crew, we don't really see that. We're all the same thing. We're all hunters. We just do it a little bit different way wherever we're at. When BMAC came out and hunted with us this November in Missouri, Brian from Hush, he was, it was like the moon to him because he'd never really done rut hunting for whitetails out of a tree stand. And,
right.
It was an awesome experience. He had all these questions and was just so intrigued by the whole thing. And then we go out there last week and we're hunting, coos and mule deer with them. And I'm sitting next to him and Eric and Casey on a mountain glassing for deer, and I can't see a one of them. And these guys are spotting one every 5 seconds. It's like, and then they start giving me tips on like how to glass and what to look for and stuff. And all of a sudden I start identifying these little deer down there. So it's, there's tons to learn there from each other. And, I think it's just awesome if you love to hunt, just to kind of expand your horizons a little bit and try some new stuff as you go. Because you can definitely take some of the tactics that you learn out west back to the deer that you hunt in Pennsylvania or wherever, if you're from out east. And vice versa. For
sure. And I just know, and I'm not talking about guys that have platforms that have been kind of had that mentality I was talking about. It seems like it's just guys that consume the content and do their own thing, just individuals out there that I've talked to. It's like,
right.
I don't know. I feel like it would really be really cool. And the collaboration that you guys could do would almost like unify guys across the country to be on the same team instead of kind of an East versus West mentality thing. And I just think that's going to be really freaking valuable for the hunting community as a whole to hopefully unify and get everybody on the same page, because the problems that face us over here are 99% similar to the problems that you guys face over there with access and public lands. We have our timberlands where, we always considered timberlands to be public because you didn't, they pretty much were. And now we're starting to get this shit shut down, or you have to pay $350 to access this tree farm, or to go over here, or this is now shut down over here, and this road's decommissioned. It's just the same things you guys face over there.
Yep. It's very similar. That's the thing. The hunter recruitment problem is a big deal in the whitetail communities. And like you said, the public lands and the access is a huge part of that. Like that's actually one of the problems that's causing the hunter recruitment problem. Like, people don't have a place to go. Well, then they either drop out or they don't get involved, which is essentially
Makes
the
sense.
same problem. That's what whitetail hunting is kind of turned into, for better or worse, whatever you would, I guess it kind of just depends on what your goals are as a deer hunter. But when I was a kid, you could go around the county and get permission to hunt from just about any farmer that was around. And there was some public land then too. And now there's about the same amount of public land as there was then, except there's very little hunting done on permission. So it's all been marketed and either bought or leased. And, then you start to narrow down your access opportunities, and folks have to go hunt public land. So what I would like to see, out east and in the Midwest, is actually an increase in public land, an increase in access opportunities. That's really what we're all about, is opportunity for folks.
Well, I know our ODF&W, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, they work with some ranches and landowners to open access, and in return they get work for free, stuff like that. So, that there's stuff happening out there. I actually did a podcast with a guy from Washington. Washington Backcountry is his platform, and he started this kind of like kind of like a BHA kind of rendezvous thing, but for guys that are new into hunting that want to learn. And he gets guys that are experienced that know how to hunt, and he teaches and he brings and introduces them to guys that are wanting to learn how to hunt. And he actually has this group of guys, it sounds like, that are willing to share areas or spots and give them the ropes to go out and give them the know-how to go out and find their own spots and have success quicker, and all in hopes of increasing the hunter recruitment and making it, I'm not going to say easier to have success, but to find success quicker, and kind of do what you're talking about. Like, if I was going to get into hunting, first question is, where would I go? And this kind of solves that. So
right.
there are things that are happening in light of that, and it's really, really motivating and makes you think that there is a possibility for us to find a way out of the situation that we're in right now.
I agree. There's definitely some good things happening out there for sure.
So what's next for you guys for next year? I know we alluded to hunting with the broker. Do you guys have anything coming around the bend or any cool announcements coming out?
We're going to start doing our scouting workshops in February, and I think we're going to do one in Mississippi and Minnesota and potentially out east in Ohio or Pennsylvania. And then from there, we'll move on to our turkey tour, which starts in mid-March. And I believe we'll be hunting in Alabama for the first leg of the tour on public land, which should be super tough, but it'll be a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool. Well, speaking of scouting, what would be, for a guy like me who wants to maybe shoot a whitetail, what would be one of the top states for me to start looking into to find success or have a good chance at a whitetail?
Well, it all depends on probably how far you want to travel, because there's a bunch of really good western states for whitetails, like Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska. We just came from Arizona hunting coos deer. There was a pile of them down there. I actually think a lot of those western states get overlooked because people are focused on mule deer or elk, and they're not thinking about whitetail hunting. So consequently, they have a large supply of good whitetail hunting. And there's other more traditional, I guess, whitetail states that are over the counter that have tons of public land. Wisconsin's a good one. Minnesota's a good one. Missouri, Iowa's hunting is good, but you gotta wait a really long time to get in there. It takes 4 or 5 years to draw a tag. It's also much more expensive than those other states that I just mentioned. So
that's crazy.
Oklahoma is a very overlooked state that is over the counter and has some real good access opportunities with, lots of successful hunts each and every year on public land. So there's really a wide variety of them. And as we've hunted them over the years, because our home state's in Iowa, we start comparing these other public areas to Iowa, and there's not a huge difference. Iowa's got better age structure for bucks and probably some just bigger bucks in general. But that's not to say that there's not big bucks in these other states that you can buy over-the-counter tags with. For example, if you go to Missouri, you got way more public land access in Missouri than you do in Iowa. So you have way more potential opportunity to find a buck that you're wanting to harvest or to get away from people, for example. And those are also important factors. I feel like a lot of folks that are traveling to hunt whitetails just get stuck in the fact, well, I watched, these guys on TV shoot these big bucks in Iowa. I got to go to Iowa. Well, there's big bucks in a lot of states. The biggest buck we killed all fall was in Kentucky. I shouldn't say that. It was in Missouri. And then the second or third biggest buck we killed all fall was in Kentucky. So, yeah. And we also got a nice one up in Minnesota, and there's just a lot of opportunity. You hear guys killing nice bucks out east in like Maryland on public land, PA. There's just a wide range of whitetail hunting opportunities, just depending on your budget and how far you're wanting to travel.
Yeah. Well, what really turned me on was one of the first episodes you guys were using a boat.
Yep.
And to go across this lake. And I'm like, that's the coolest shit I've seen on YouTube in a long time.
Yep.
I didn't know guys did that. And when I was hunting Idaho this year, using like OnX and stuff, which really freaking comes in handy.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially when you're hunting out of states. I'm sure you guys use the crap out of that. I was able to find like the parts of the unit are navigating around private property that I'd never been to before, and then I'm like, man, I should have brought waders to raid across this river, and I ended up finding this guy in his camp. Long story short, after I found this spot to cross the river and get access into this area, it would have been like a mile versus like a 5-mile hike, and I'm like, I got to do that, and I met this guy, and I'm like, man, there's a spot up here. If I had waders, I could. And he's like, how did you know that? I was like, what? And he's like, I've lived here my whole life, and only the locals know that. I'm like, huh. Well, thank you, Onyx.
Yeah, there you go.
It was just stuff like that, man, that kind of gives you the edge. But it's kind of frustrating because I've only seen a handful of actual true whitetails in my life. And I say true whitetails because I grew up in Roseburg here with one of the only places you can find Colombian whitetail, which if you find one that's 100 pounds, that's pretty much a full-grown whitetail.
Right.
120 is a pretty big size
those
whitetail.
Those things are pretty rare,
Colombian.
aren't they? Isn't it tough to get those tags?
For a non-resident, it would be pretty tough. If you're willing to wait 2 or 3 years, you can get a tag. And I live, 20 minutes from one of the best whitetail spots for Columbia whitetail. Period.
I see.
And it's I've thought about it but I don't want to just have to do it to cross it off my list because I really love mule deer hunting, man. It's one of my favorite. And blacktail, I enjoy blacktail hunting, but mule deer that's my hot spot. And but these Colombian whitetails just well, long story short, my dad grew up hating Colombian whitetails because they were on the endangered species list and we couldn't hunt them. So they're just a trash animal. Like they don't taste good. Like how do you even know?
Right.
and so he just convinced all of us that whitetail were no good. And now that we can hunt them, it's like, huh.
Yep.
And they've only been huntable for I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 years. I mean, maybe a little bit longer than that. But they're back when I remember when they became legal to hunt, you killed a freaking dink, it would make the record books.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
But yeah, I kind of have a chip on my shoulder with whitetail here locally because I don't want to have to bite the bullet and actually spend my points away from mule deer to hunt one of these things.
Right.
So. But if you guys want to hunt a Colombian whitetail deer, shoot, I'm your huckleberry there because I know right where they're at.
I'd say that's going to be that's definitely on the bucket list here at some point.
Is it really? Well,
yeah.
it would be a challenge, but it would be you give me like 3 or 4 days with a rifle, we could get you a pretty stud buck for sure. I mean, yeah. But with a bow, I know some guys that have struck out a few times on them. I actually drew the whitetail blacktail tag back when I was must have been 16. And it was one of the first, actually it's probably been 15 years that whitetail had been legal because it was a few years after it became legal. And long story short, I'm like dead set on killing a Colombian whitetail deer. And, we kept seeing these big 18 to 20 inch Colombian whitetail deer, wide whitetail deer. 115-inch Columbia is freaking huge. And basically couldn't find one. They were all about 60 to 70 inches. And I'm like, man, young kid looking for a big buck. And then this 18-inch fork and horn blacktail walks out. And I'm like, I'd be an idiot not to shoot that. And I just wish I would have filled that tag with a whitetail because I'm still talking about that shit today.
They're fun little creatures. I know that.
Well, they are so much more aggressive than our blacktail. I have a buddy who guides for the Colombians over here, and he says a little Colombian will kick the shit out of a full-grown blacktail. 150-pound, 160-pound blacktail.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're talking. They're a third of the size, of a full-grown blacktail.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how much more aggressive they are.
Yep.
But well, is there any closing thoughts here, Aaron, before we wrap this thing up? I know you got to get going, but anything you want to say before we get out of here? Any links that people can go to check out your stuff?
Yeah, you can find everything we do at the Hunting Public on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We turn out a lot of content on all those platforms. We also have a podcast on iTunes at the Hunting Public as well. So yeah, just follow us there and let us know how your hunts are going.
Perfect, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time. I know it was kind of a snafu getting us to hook up on this podcast, but I appreciate you making it work, and I'm sure we'll be hopefully working together soon, someday.
Sounds great, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, take care, Aaron. See ya.
Take care.
All right, guys, what do you think? A lot of whitetail stuff on this one. Definitely appreciate Aaron's insights and tips on what states to go to, and I think he nailed it. You know, a lot of states have great whitetail opportunities, and it's just a matter of picking which one you're willing to travel to and which one you want, what kind of experience you want. So thanks, Aaron, for coming on to the show. Thank you for listening to the podcast, continuing to grow, continuing to upload, and just work, just grinding and growing, guys, and glad that you guys are joining along the journey with me. So as always, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.